ready to start this service. This is the 102nd birthday of All Souls here in Tulsa. We are so glad you're with us in person as well as those of you who are with us online. If you're visiting us for the first time today and you're here, we have a little, even though it's our birthday as a church, we have a gift for you, so we hope you'll take it on your way out. If you're visiting, we're so glad that you're with us. You've come on a very special day when we're going to celebrate the life of this church and where we come from and whose we are and who we are and all of that today. John Beidler is our minister online. For those who are online today, there's a Connect card in the pew. If you're here for the first time, please fill it out. You can stick it in the offering plate when it comes around or hand it in at the table as you leave the church this morning. And there's also an online Connect card, so I hope you'll connect with us, those of you who are online. Let us start our service. We are known by the company we keep, but we also have to know the company that we keep. So please stand up and greet the people right around you and remain standing for our invocation.
I thought you were going to bring it.
That's my job.
God has made.
Say it again.
This is indeed a day that God has made. Let us then rejoice in it and be glad. Let us count our many blessings. Let us be grateful for the capacity to see, feel, hear, and understand. Let us be grateful for the incredible gift of life. Let us be especially grateful for the ties of love that bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. Please join us in saying our covenant that's written in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Oh, welcome to All Souls. Welcome to All Souls, where we do what?
Love beyond belief.
Thank you.
I'm all that.
This time, I'd like to invite three of our past presidents, past women presidents, in honor of Women's History Month. We've asked our women past presidents of the church to light our chalice. So I introduce to you Donna Dutton, Floretta Reed, and Alicia McLean. And they are standing in for also Sharon McElroy, who couldn't be with us. And we also bring in the spirits of Eddie Crumey and Jerry Jones, who are no longer with us in body, but very much with us in spirit on this 102nd birthday of All Souls.
We light our chalice on our 102nd birthday of All Souls, remembering that the true joy of life is being used for a purpose. Let the one flame remind us that we belong to each other in community. We kindle this symbol of our free faith and keep it burning during our lifetime. May we help to burn it as brightly as possible before handing it off to the next generation.
Good morning. I'm Shannon Boston, your religious educator, and I have an ancient story to tell you today. I've reset it in Oklahoma so that we can relate a little bit better. Frances Louise's face was like a complicated map full of ridges and wrinkles. Her back was stooped a little when she walked, and she shuffled. Still, she had a twinkle in her eye, and she always had a kind word for her family and neighbors. She spent most of her days in a rocking chair looking out over her yard and a house that had been passed down through the generations. If she had a visitor, she'd share her memories, and when she was alone, she'd remember to herself. It was during one of those mornings alone that Frances Louise surprised herself by coming up with an ambitious idea. She made a phone call, and a few hours later, a very tall, very skinny parcel was delivered to the barest corner of her yard. It was springtime, just like now. The earth was waking up. She found a garden spade and her old faded gardening gloves, and she pulled a low seat over to the spot by the newly delivered parcel. She sat down in the seat slowly, very slowly, and she began to dig. It was hard work, and she'd have to sit back now and then and look up at that clear blue Oklahoma sky. She'd take a big breath and get to digging until eventually that hole was just the right size. And very carefully, she shuffled that parcel and rotated it until the bottom of it fit just into the hole, and kerplunk. Finally, she pushed the earth back all around the bottom of the parcel. That too was hard work. And when she was finished, she unwrapped the parcel, and there it was. Do you know what it was? It was a beautiful sapling persimmon tree. Just then, her granddaughter arrived for a visit with her youngest child on her hip. "Grandma, what are you doing? Be careful. You planting a tree? At your age?" "Good morning, Denise. It's not just any tree. It's a persimmon tree, just like the one you used to build fairy houses under when you were a girl." "But Grandma, it won't make persimmons for years." Frances Louise laughed as she pointed at the very old tree in the opposite corner of the yard. Some of its branches were broken off and others were bent with age. Most of them were bare, even though it was in the middle of the spring. She said, "I'm like that old persimmon tree. It's just about ready to be finished too. I remember when I was a little girl, my great-grandmother taught me so much with that old tree. I loved to climb it when I was little. The branches were just my size and they seemed to grow with me. I felt safe there. And then when I was a young woman, I would pick some of its delicate blossoms and decorate my hair with them. I think that's how my husband came to notice me. My grandmother taught me how to make persimmon jam, just like I taught your mother, and we taught you. Remember? And in the fall, every year, we'd cut the seeds to try to predict what kind of winter we would have. Now I'm a great-grandmother. Frances Louise looked very dreamily as she continued. And I have lots of time on my hands. And I sit and I remember as I look out my window, and mostly I'm happy with my life. But a little while ago, as I sat looking out into my yard, I realized I had never planted a tree. Never. It just didn't seem right. I have great-grandchildren, Frances Louise exclaimed, and they'll need a persimmon tree when I'm gone. Of course, smiled Denise, as she pledged to herself to do something for her great-grandchildren too, even though she didn't have any yet. I wonder what that will be. Perhaps she will plant a tree. What will you do? And as for Frances Louise, after planting the tree, she returned to her rocking chair to look out the window and smile. So ends our story.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the water. Those who have died have never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the glowing woods. They are in the burning house. They are in the burning house. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. Is the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the water.
Speaking of ancestors, during the pandemic, we had lost members of our community, and we weren't always able to come and gather together to recognize them. And so this morning, we've put together the names of those from our church community who have died in 2021, 2022, and so far in 2023. And we'd like you to help us to recognize them and honor them in a roll call. And so I would invite you, if you are able, to please stand with us as we read these names. Jackie Tomsovic.
Herman Rios.
Gloria Caldwell.
Grace Fikes.
Clayton Vaughn.
Jim Vaughn.
Robert Leeser Jr.
Patricia Miller.
Gordon Cecil.
Robert Brooks.
James Hardwick.
Jan Alexander.
Robert Howard.
Ruth Richards.
William Bowles.
Mary Wallace Warner.
Herb Beatty.
Philip Arnett.
Mary Ellen Gunby.
Jane Spillers.
Charlotte Bailey.
Noah Miracle.
Anthony Ringgold.
William Dunn.
Charlie Cox.
Charlie Mitchell.
Roger Wares.
Trish Leeser.
Rebecca Deaton.
Doris Mayfield.
Bill Jensen.
Sue Forney.
Harry Crampton.
Barry Wilder.
Vic Powell.
Dick Leeser.
Robert Tucker.
Marion Gottwalls.
David Laughlin.
Carmelita McNair.
Robert Reese Sr.
John Davis.
Ron Morrison.
Harriet Jensen.
Ronald Jacob.
Glenn Vischer. In whatever number of days ahead are still ours to claim, may we remember them and do our own lives justice. Amen. You may be seated.
We are our ancestors' breath. We are seeds of change, learning to lead in love. And we shall be known by the company we keep and by the fires and the fields we tend to. This morning, we light a candle for Julie Tattershaw and her family on the loss of Julie's aunt, Barbara Lawrence, who died on March 18th. And we light a candle for all those affected by the recent deadly tornadoes in Mississippi and Alabama, and for the rescue workers, friends and neighbors helping each other. And from our online viewers and everywhere members, we light a candle for Daniel Stalker, Bonita James' brother-in-law, and for her family, as their whole family navigates a difficult time. And from Jeannie Lee, we light a candle for her mother, who is struggling with anxiety and health issues. And this morning, we light a special candle for Bishop Robert E. Smith, Sr. This is the father of our own beloved pastor, David Smith. His father died on this day 3 years ago. We honor him and his legacy. I'd like to invite you now to speak aloud a name of someone you carry with you speak it aloud into this sanctuary of memory and light and hope, and I will light a candle in their honor. Light one last candle for all those names not spoken aloud, but carried within us. And if you have lost a loved one in the past year, or this Sunday is closest to the anniversary of the death of a loved one, we invite you now to stand as you are able in memory and mourning for a moment of silence before the prayer.
We hold all those names and faces, known and unknown, in the healing light of grace and compassion. You may be seated. Oh God, today we acknowledge the passage of time, the past with its lessons, the future with its mystery, and the present with its extraordinary potential. We also recognize that time is fleeting and that our lives are but passing shadows. May we take not for granted each new day that we are gifted with. Help us to be mindful of the beauty and the wonder that surrounds us. And may we approach each new day with a sense of gratitude and wonder. May we use our time wisely to make a difference in the world around us and to leave a lasting impact on those we encounter, on those we love. Oh God, may we be reminded of the power of community and the impact that we can have on each other's lives. Help us to build bridges of understanding and compassion and to work together toward a brighter future for all. We ask for strength and courage to face the challenges that lie ahead, and for the wisdom to navigate the complexities of life with grace and with dignity. May we find purpose and meaning in our lives and leave a legacy that will inspire and uplift future generations. And may it be the legacy of compassion, kindness, and hope. May our light shine brightly, and may our hearts always choose love. May it be so. Amen.
Bring, O Pastor, honor.
You may know the best-selling book, Tuesdays with Morrie. In it, Mitch Albom interviews his teacher who is in the process of dying, his teacher Morrie, and he explains, everyone knows they're going to die, but no one believes it. If we did, we would do things differently. So we kid ourselves about death, he says, but there's a better approach. To know that you're going to die and to be prepared for it at any time. That way, you can actually be involved in your life while you're living. So he suggests that we continually ask ourselves each day these questions. Is today the day? Am I ready? Am I doing all I need to do? Am I being the person I want to be in the world? The writer E.B. White, and we all know E.B. White because he was the writer of Charlotte's Web. Who knows Charlotte's Web? I want to see some of the kids raise their hands here because we all know that story, and Stuart Little and some other great things. But E.B. White watched his wife, Catherine, planning the planting of bulbs in her garden in the last autumn of her life. And later he wrote this. There was something comical yet touching in her bedraggled appearance. The small, hunched-over figure, her studied absorption in the implausible notion that there would be yet another spring. Oblivious to the ending of her own days, which she knew perfectly well was near at hand. Sitting there with her detailed chart under those dark skies in dying October, calmly plotting the resurrection. Plotting the resurrection. What is resurrection but death turning into new life? Imagine your love and influence rising and blooming into beautiful gifts year after year, long after you're gone. I can remember sitting with Penny McElroy and her daughter, Donna, who lit our chalice this morning, because Penny was plotting the resurrection in this way. She had made All Souls the beneficiary of a lead trust, so that we were able to establish a fund to endow an internship to train Unitarian Universalist ministers into perpetuity. Have you ever seen the swirling seeds that fall from a tall maple tree? You know, they fall in the spring, I think, or in the fall, rather. That's why they call it fall, right? Because they're small. But just like a mighty maple tree, her faith in our future spins and floats and is carried by the wind like miniature helicopters landing over great distances, planting ministers who inspire new ministers and ministries all across the land. Can you imagine the impact of that decision through the generations? And we all get to take a part in it, as we are a learning and teaching congregation who get to benefit from these interns as we teach them and they go forth from here. I remember sitting with Bisser Barnett, who had stories of being a child in one of those iron lung machines because she had contracted polio as a kid. She plotted the resurrection by giving All Souls the funds to establish the Jenkin Lloyd Jones Press. And then this flower bloomed, and then this flower popped up, and then this flower, and the next one, and the next one. And thanks to her faith in our free religion and in this church, on the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, the Jenkin Lloyd Jones Press published what is considered the foremost account by many people of some of the incredible individuals and families who built and rebuilt Greenwood before and after the massacre. If you haven't read this book, The Victory on Greenwood by Carlos Moreno, I highly recommend it. An amazing story of some of the best Tulsans who have ever lived. And she showed us that seeds can be planted and can grow out of the ashes of destruction. I can remember walking up crumbling concrete steps with this wobbly, rusted banister and entering the broken screen door that slammed loudly behind me to visit Virginia Day, who was busy plotting the resurrection. She made a gift while she was alive to establish the Day Communications program of All Souls, which bought us the cameras and the equipment to broadcast our services on the internet. And then she put the church in her will so that the programs would grow for generations to come. If you're watching online, or if you watched online during the pandemic, or you have ever watched an All Souls sermon on YouTube, you have Virginia Day to thank. But I want you to know this about Orville and Virginia Day. Their son Barry tragically died of HIV/AIDS back in the 90s. She deeply appreciated the way that All Souls consistently took a religious stance on behalf of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people in this community. This was long before almost anyone else, certainly in the religious world, was standing up and giving a moral voice for people who love differently. And she felt that our messages needed to land and be heard beyond our walls to help shape the public discourse on issues that matter in our times. Before we had marriage equality here in the United States, a sermon that I delivered on gay marriage from this pulpit went viral online, thanks to the plotting and the planting of Virginia Day. Reverend Suzanne Meyer, who many say may have been the best preacher who has ever delivered a sermon from this pulpit. She only served our church for about 2 years, but she was so impressed by our children and youth choir program and the impact that she saw that it was having on children and youth that she left everything she had when she died to the All Souls Children and Youth Choir program. Now, these are just a few of the mighty cloud of witnesses who have loved this church before some of us were even born. And they are loving us still because they planted bulbs that bloom and make our life right now more livable and more lovable. They planted trees under whose shade we get to sit to avoid some of the scorching heat of our culture in times like these, and trees that help protect us from the rain during our own times of life's challenges. But not just for us, but forever. They planted bulbs forever. As Anitra and I are working on redrafting our wills, we are plotting the resurrection, planting some bulbs in the free and fertile soil of All Souls. That's part of our plot. Now, if you belong to this congregation, I invite you to belong to its future. Just imagine your love for this place and its people can live on forever into perpetuity. That money never to be spent, but just the interest going on to do great things. Maury asks, is today the day? Are you ready? How might you and All Souls plot the resurrection? It is not just their heritage and legacy we celebrate each year. It is yours too. I love you. Amen.
is a new day. And love of life is hope for me. That is a beautiful song. And this morning, I need a little help from these gentlemen up here because I have something to show you. It's okay. This dress belonged to one of my grandmothers. And so I'm guessing it was made around 1950, which makes the dress about 70 years old. It's in very good shape, which indicates that nylon lasts a long time. She didn't actually leave it for me. Her name was Rita, and I found it in my mother's closet. And I've kept it as a way to honor an ancestor and a way to remember an ancestor. I'm old enough now, I'm about to turn 60 next week. I'm old enough now to feel that death is closer and that my time on this earth is limited. So thank you, Rita. When I think about this dress now, I think that this dress and then my mother and then me and then my daughter and my granddaughter tangibly connects 5 generations, very concretely. As Marlon has said already this morning, it's only when we accept that endings are real that we can think about what we want to leave behind. But just because that's obvious doesn't mean it's easy. And I feel, I've been feeling the challenges of facing endings keenly these past months because I've been struggling, honestly, with accepting my own ending here at All Souls. But with encouragement from all of you and all of you, the people I work with, I'm finding the strength to face this ending and taking time to consider what I want to leave behind. The manner and style in which we close out our ministry will be very similar to the way in which we will die, writes Reverend Roy Oswald. Continuing, in death and in grief, we do not so much need protection from painful experience as we need the boldness to face it. In death and in grief, we're all familiar with those, and in all kinds of leaving a job, leaving home for school, leaving a relationship, leaving a city, leaving a country, and when we are the ones being left behind by a lover, by losing a job, a divorce, a change in leadership, we do not so much need protection from painful experience as we need the boldness to face it. When we dare to face our endings, we can actually ask ourselves, what will they remember me for? What do I want to leave behind? I imagine many of you are already asking yourself these questions in your own lives. Remember, Deanna Tyrrell and I are the same age, pretty much exactly, and we told each other a couple of years ago that we would get our end-of-life paperwork in order for our 60th birthdays. I didn't check in with her before this Sunday to see how she's doing. I still have a little work to do. That's one really beautiful, powerful gift we can leave our loved ones. We can leave them clear instructions about the medical care we want and we don't want to receive. We can leave them clear instructions about who we trust to manage our finances and our health care, appointing people we trust as our proxies when we can no longer make our own decisions. We can leave instructions about our memorial service, what music and poetry we want read, and we have a form here at All Souls for you to fill out. We can leave clear instructions about what we want others to do with our body, and we can leave a will. There is a table in the foyer this morning, so I hope you'll stop on your way out to see what All Souls offers and to start those conversations in your own life. I strongly encourage you, if you're feeling bold enough after this morning's service, or sometime this week, and I didn't say old enough, I said bold enough, because there's never been a better time than this, than the present. And I hope you'll reach out to Reverend Randy Lewis, who's passionate about these issues and is eager to walk with you as you make these end-of-life decisions. Now, my mother, she left a file folder in her desk drawer with the words, "My death," marked in red ink. Thank you, Mom. I also found this box on her desk. This is good for the young people. People used to keep things in boxes on little index cards, and it's organized alphabetically. And on each card is the name of an organization that she donated money to over the years. So I'm just going to read you the A's. AARP, ACLU, All Souls Unitarian Church Tulsa, Alzheimer's Association, American Cancer Society, American Red Cross, Amnesty International, American Veterans Association, Association Famille de Compagnons de la Libération, the A's. I haven't been able to let go of this box yet because it's evidence of her values. Not only did my mother give to causes she believed in, she left behind evidence for us of the values that continue to inspire those of us she left behind. Not only does her love live on in us, but her values live on through her giving. I think Florence understood what Shannon was talking about earlier, that she understood that she had been climbing up and sitting under and pruning trees all her life, trees that other people had planted. Just as we are sitting in a church that people before us imagined, organized, discussed, supported, built, and sustained for over a century. Now, not all of you may have known before this morning that I'm moving to the Pacific Northwest this summer and leaving All Souls to live closer to family. And some of you have already told me that the way you heard this news or found out felt disappointing or even hurtful. So please hear me now and know that choosing to leave All Souls has been an extremely difficult decision to make. And then, even after the decision was made, it's been difficult for me to accept it and stick with it, to really let go. Having Reverend Lewis with us has not only made it easier for me, but his presence, and it has made it easier, but his presence has also made it possible for me to lead our stewardship efforts this year. And so on this Heritage Sunday, 13 years after joining the ministry team and 4 years after my installation by you in this sanctuary, I'm hoping publicly that part of my legacy will be an understanding that we love and give today for a future world we won't see, which is precisely how we and our love outlasts death and lives on. Now, those are beautiful words. They sound good. They feel good. But being able to share those words with y'all this morning required some deep internal work on my part. I'm going to tell you what I mean, because in fact, just a few weeks ago, I might have enjoyed arguing about what I just said, as I was feeling sort of the opposite. I was wrestling, honestly, with why I was still working so hard, knowing I was leaving, knowing I wouldn't be part of what I was working for, of the future I was helping to build. I was feeling, honestly, sort of sorry for myself. And I shared some of what I was feeling with Shannon Boston, our Executive Director of Religious Education, in our weekly meeting. We have a weekly meeting on Tuesdays. And I said, why am I still working so hard when I won't be part of the new teams we're pulling together? I was kind of whining, I admit. Please share some of your wisdom with me, I pleaded to Miss Shannon. And Shannon took a deep breath and then offered with a hint of a smile, that's what we're all doing, Barbara. We're all working with and giving to the church so it will be here long after we're gone. And of course, she's right and wise and loving, but it wasn't easy for me to hear, not at first. I, of course, wanted her to tell me that I mattered, that I would be missed. I, me. Thank you for laughing with me. It's so easy to get stuck in thinking that things are all about me or us. But when we belong to and give to All Souls, it's precisely because it's more than about just us. This community is about embodying the world as we hope and dream and pray it will one day become. It's about learning and letting go, healing and growing more whole. It's about trust and embracing transformation. Here, we release our fears and we face our endings and we plan for the resurrection. We are a community and we are an institution whose core value is love beyond belief. And we are living in a time in history when trust in institutions is very low and when trust in institutions is really needed. And because our church is already an embodiment of what Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams called, I love this quote, so listen carefully, a training ground for the skills that are required for viable social existence in a democracy, and a means for the institutionalizing of gradual revolution. Because that's who and what we are, this is an institution that needs to stay healthy and grow even stronger. Together, here, we practice what Adams called the indispensable discipline of social responsibility. If those words make your spine tingle the way they do mine, I encourage you to read Adams' essay called The Indispensable Discipline of Social Responsibility, Voluntary Associations. We, you and I, did not choose who we were born to, into what family, where we were born, but we freely choose to assemble here, continuing a tradition our religious ancestors fought for, the right for religion to be free of state control. In Adam's words, by covenant, we respond to God's community-forming power. And with the power of community, we can break through old social structures and participate in making social decisions. If you would think of this then in closing, think of this institution then as a stool built by our ancestors. Please note that it stands on 3 legs. You know, they say a 3-legged stool is the most stable. It stands on a leg called the present, which is our operating fund, a leg called the future, which is our capital fund, and a leg we're calling the forever, which is our endowment. All of us can give to all 3, ensuring that our love and values will live on long after we take our last breath. As I turn 60 and work on getting my ducks in a row, I will consider, I'm not quite where Marlon and Anitra are, but I am, after this week of reflection, going to consider leaving some of what I am left with to All Souls, because I can't think of a better place. For now, I will say, I am forever grateful to have been part of All Souls. I see a bright, bright future for this beloved community. And right now, in the present, I love you. May we all be remembered for and with love. May it be so. Amen.
We're going to sing together. I invite you to rise and body your spirit. The words will be on the screen if you need them. Lean on me. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain. We all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me. Help me sing it. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lead. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lead. just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lead. Lean on me, lean on me when you're not strong. And I'm listening for you, for it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Thank you.
Please lean on me. Every week at All Souls, we give away our plate to an organization doing the work of love, justice, and care in our community. In honor of Women's History Month, today's offering goes to the YWCA East Community Center. Since its founding in 1914, YWCA Tulsa has continually adapted to the challenges of an evolving society and persistently served the needs of women, their families, and the community of Tulsa. And they continue to focus on addressing systemic disparities, eliminating barriers, and investing in the success of those who are most at risk in our community, including immigrants and refugees. So when the offering plate comes around, please give generously, but I do have a few announcements. So immediately after the service, please join us three, me, Marlon, and Barbara, in Emerson Hall for our Heritage Sunday reception as we celebrate 102 years. Just think about that, 102 years, our birthday. And speaking of birthdays, yesterday was somebody's birthday. Where are you, Rick Fordner? Can we?
Happy birthday to, happy birthday to, happy birthday, dear Rick. Happy
Yes. And many more. As ministers Barbara and Marlon spoke about contributing to our endowment in the form of a legacy gift to ensure another 100 years, and you can find the card, more information in your pew back in front of you. Please review that. And there's a life decisions table actually in the foyer. You can stop by and get more information about just about everything about planning the end of life. And think about it, we're celebrating our birthday and end of life, full circle, because that's what we do here. From the womb to the tomb, all of it, right? Yes, members of the stewardship team at the table as well to help you in your decision making. Now, at 1 p.m. today in Thoreau Lounge, we're holding our grief support group. In this program, we explore grief and loss through personal sharing, support, and education about the grief process. And parents, it's time to start thinking about summer camp. Camp Sleuth runs from June 12th through the 16th. Please call the church office for more information and details. Now, this concludes our announcements. Please check your order of services for additional announcements and information. Now, let us receive your most generous offering.
Let us sing out joyfully.
May abundance lead to gratitude,
Then to generosity.
As we share what we have with each other, let us sing out joyfully. May abundance lead to gratitude, then to generosity.
as we share what we have with each other,
As we share what we have with each other, let us sing out joyfully.
singing for us. We got to sing for you. Thank you all for being here and celebrating the 102nd birthday of All Souls. We're going to have there's a beautiful spread that the Day Alliance has put together for us. So the ministers, instead of greeting you at the door today, we're going to be in there eating and drinking, and we want you to join us in Emerson Hall for all of that. If you're online, we will be raising our glass for you, but stick around on Zoom and make some friends and have some conversation. Talk about this topic. You know, this is countercultural, what we did today. Talking about death is countercultural. Talking about giving away money, this is a culture that's about accumulation, and we're talking about giving back. So this is a beautiful day, and I want to leave you with these words to you. Prophets of a future which is not our own. Remember that the kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it is even beyond our vision. We accomplish in our lifetime only a tiny fraction of the magnificent enterprise of building the kingdom of heaven on earth. Nothing we do is complete. No statement we say could say it all. No prayer fully expresses our hope. No program accomplishes the church's mission. No set of goals or objectives includes everything. This is what we are about. We plant the seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds that are already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We may never see the end results. We are prophets of a future that is not our own. Go and be blessed and be a blessing. Happy birthday, All Souls. Sarah, it's great to see you.